membership?
Yeah, VP of membership.
Oh, do you have the...
I got it.
Also, we put the wrong date. It's okay. It's my, yeah.
People won't know where we are.
Yeah, it's January 15th. So. And then,
What do you need me to do?
oh.
I was supposed to evaluate, but it was unexpected that I became available.
Well, do you want to do... Does anyone have two?
You want to give a speech real quick?
Sure, I'll pull up my PowerPoint.
Okay. And you'll need an evaluator.
Oh. Would somebody like to be an evaluator? We have an extra speaker that just came up. All right, Hans Weidel will be. William Gribble has risen to the occasion once again.
We just never sing that.
I came by your office earlier to ask you. I was going to have you give me a demo.
Show it to me.
This is what we have.
I have never heard that.
I'm thinking we might want to do this.
Sorry.
Is that correct?
Okay. Yeah.
So I'll tell everyone. Because I noticed that the music matched right before.
Eyeballing you, that reminds me that I should follow up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most people don't even know there is a first verse.
I didn't know it.
I'd rather just
I know you
traditionally
have
spin it,
to.
but I thought I would throw it.
Well,
I
it's
wasn't
there,
sure.
it's official, but
It's not.
So,
Okay.
you're saying you can bring your instrument
I
and
have
start playing
absolutely
it,
nothing planned this week,
someone else is singing.
which is a holiday in and of itself, because usually I have something.
they
Hey,
find
you didn't answer my
out.
text message, James. Did you?
I'm just going to do part two.
Why? What are you worried about? You don't want to be? Sure, maybe. Okay. All right. Where's the roll sheet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, we'll make it fly.
For what?
Say it.
Oh,
Everybody will figure out what they need to do. Oh boy.
okay, I follow the
Hey Saba, it's okay. We're recording. Recording.
Well, the email I got said I was the calendar. It says I'm the timer. Which one's official?
Oh,
Oh, I apologize, Professor Kelly.
you could be the off counter. Because Madison, I think, is.
I need to come up with another one.
I became an evaluator.
I have 4.
Yeah.
So we straight?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Here, you read it and tell me what you think.
Are y'all ready to go? Let's get started. Thank you all for showing up today for our first meeting of the semester. We have decided to switch things up a little, and we're going to start our meeting with the Aggie War Hymn. And I believe you all have it. And I'm going to actually ask Professor Kelly to come up here with me and lead us. We're going to start with So Goodbye. It's the, I guess it would be the third paragraph down. And we'll sing that one. We'll start with Hullabaloo. And we'll sing the So Goodbye section twice. We will not sing the All Hail to Dear Old paragraph. One thing I want, well, I'll get to this afterwards. So we'll go ahead and start.
Before you start,
Yeah, Professor.
allow me to explain a little more detail. Being an old Aggie bandsman, the band starts out with recall, which is an old bugle call. So recall gets everybody ready, gets you on their feet, and then we sing Hullabaloo, Connect, Connect, Hullabaloo, Connect, Connect, and then instead of singing the first verse here, we sing, and then the second verse, we sing the second verse twice. So you just mark through the first verse, but we'll sing the second verse twice. And then we go in and we saw Varsity's Horns Off. And this is what you've probably seen on TV, where we put our arms around each other's shoulders and sway back and forth. So you'll need to kind of cram together in the middle, or move around so you'll have at least two of you to solve Varsity's Horns. It's kind of hard to do it by yourself.
Some people are paid with this.
So well, you do that, and then where it says short, you stop, sway, and you walk it short. And then you put your arms around and you saw Varsity's Horns Off some more. So that's we saw them off short, and then you wildcat. And you're done. Make sense?
All right.
Let's give it a
Let's
try.
do it. Y'all ready?
Can I come up there and do it?
Sure.
I want to. You arm in arm with Professor.
Yeah, just find somebody to solve Varsity's
All
Horns
right.
Off.
I have a little bit of music. We don't have the whole sound system, so bear with me on this.
That's recall. Hullabaloo, connect, connect. Hullabaloo, connect, connect. Goodbye to Texas University. So long to the orange and the white. Good luck to dear old Texas Aggies. They are the boys who show the real old fight. The eyes of Texas are upon you. That is the song they sing so well. Sounds like hell. So goodbye to Texas University. We're gonna beat you all to chickaree-rum, chickaree-rum. Roughed up real stuff, texting him. Goodbye to Texas University. So long to the orange and the white. Good luck to dear old Texas Aggies. They are the boys who show the real old fight. The eyes of Texas are upon you. That is the song they sing so well. Sounds like hell. So goodbye to Texas University. We're gonna beat you all to chickaree-rum, chickaree-rum. Roughed up real stuff, texting. Saw varsity's horns off. Saw varsity's horns off. Saw varsity's horns off. Short. Hey. Varsity's horns are sawed off. Varsity's horns are sawed off. Varsity's horns are sawed off. Short. Hey. Woo, woo, woo. All right. It's awfully high.
Yes. We have to get that perfect. We have a few things to start with. We had a vice president of, I believe it was membership, that we thought was staying on with us from last semester, and they are not. I believe we have someone who's interested in the position. Is that correct?
No, I'm trying to get that someone interested.
Okay. So we're trying to force
We have to
someone
talk
into
about
it.
the meeting.
Okay. In the meantime, Jonathan and I think we'll take care of it, and if anyone else is interested, feel free to let me know. We'll work with you on that. But we'd like to fill that role. As far as guests, we don't have any today, so I am going to go ahead and hand it over to our Toastmaster of the day, Charles Lincoln.
Yay! Well, I suppose maybe we can do the roles of the day first. Timer, Professor Kelly, what's your opportunity today?
My opportunity is to be the timer. No, he's the timer.
Oh, okay. Sorry. James, you're the timer.
Hello.
Howdy.
Howdy.
What's your... Oh, okay.
No, my role is to time the prepared speakers, the evaluators, and the table
Okay.
speeches.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good. Jonathan, what's your role today?
My role is Table Topics Master. I'm going to call on people randomly, and you'll have to come up and talk for 1 to 2 minutes about whatever topic I give you. Thank you.
Sounds good. That's going to be an exciting time. And we might mix it up this semester. Who knows? Randy, can you tell us about your opportunity
So
today?
I will be the general evaluator. I'll evaluate the meeting as a whole and give a brief summary at the end. And then I also will call in the evaluators who will evaluate the timed speeches.
Sounds good. And Professor Kelly, your actual role today.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm the odd-counter today, probably because I'm the best maker today. I will use the clicker to let you know that you just said like that, except for the prepared speeches. And then at various times during the meeting, I'll give us a running count.
Thank you. And thanks for leading us in the song. It was fun being up here with you. And then the 12th man is a very unique role to our club. Francis, what have you stepped up to do today?
I'm the 12th man, so I will be filling any roles that need filling throughout the meeting. I'm not sure that we do have any at this point, but if we do, I'll hop up there and do my best to fill the role. And that's my role.
Alrighty. Well, I think that's a good start. First theme of today is Martin Luther King. We actually had this theme last year. I think it's appropriate for the time being. The quote of the day is, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenging controversy." So I think I actually watched the speech today. Really exciting. I really do like that speech. I mean, we're in a speech club. There was definitely a lot of rhetorical devices of I have a dream speech. It's inspiring. And on Monday, we can take a few steps back and think about it. Think about what the civil rights movement meant back then and what it still means to us today. So, and incidentally, the word of the day is what Zachary Markov was supposed to give up. It's ardent. Could you tell us about your role and the word of the day, and perhaps in relation to the theme?
All right. Well, I'm the grammarian of the day, and the word is ardent. I'm trying to think of a good word for MLK weekend, and ardent is to have expression of character or intense feeling. So I felt it was a good word for since Martin Luther King had to have intense feelings in order to basically go in front of crowds and all that stuff and be such a great speaker. You just can't go up there without feeling something. You can't go up and just like look down and be like, all right, and then gather the amount of people. So I figured that's why I'd be good.
I agree, and you'll be checking our grammar, right? So, yeah, or it could be Hannah Arendt, right, the German political philosopher. Anyway, okay. I had to plug that in. So, well, anyway, the first speech, and we thought we were only going to have one speech, but the first speech is Saba Hafiz, and she is going to give us a speech called Fear. But incidentally, she's also a little bit upset about the passing of Alan Rickman, who was Severus Snape in all the 8 Harry Potter movies, and that's why she's wearing a Gryffindor shirt. But let's give a hand for Saba.
Howdy, everyone.
Howdy.
Today, I want to talk about fear. The word fear inspires a lot of emotions in all of us because at some point in our lives, we all experience some sort of fear. Whether it's fear of the mundane, fear of the profound stuff, we've all experienced some sort of fear, whether it's great fear or little fear. There are two kinds of fear, good fear and bad fear. Good fear can motivate us and can keep us out of trouble. For example, fear of the unknown. It keeps us from talking to wary-looking strangers. It keeps us from going into areas that are not well lit, and it keeps us from going into areas where we don't really know what the area is about. So it's self-preservation. It keeps us safe. And also, good fear sometimes can motivate us. I'm sure a lot of us in law school can relate to the fear of failure. Most of us are scared of either not being prepared for class or not doing well on a quiz or a final exam. So that fear serves to motivate us and helps us work harder and complete our reading and just do the best we can in order to succeed. However, there's also bad fear. And bad fear can cripple us and can also dissuade us from experiencing new things. For example, fear of the unknown, which I just mentioned, can also work in an opposite direction. And if we're unsure or if we are going through something that we don't know much about, it can stop us from experiencing new things. For example, if I don't know anything much about a country, I can probably be dissuaded from going to that country. And who knows, maybe going to that place would enrich me in different ways. Maybe I would meet interesting people, see interesting things, and experience a lifestyle that would just make my life slightly better. And also sometimes fear can paralyze you. For example, I know a lot of us here have the fear of public speaking. And sometimes that fear becomes so bad that it actually stops us from doing the thing we want to improve on. Like you can cancel a meeting and say, oh, I don't want to go today, I don't want to speak. And so sometimes fear isn't so much of a good thing. But I actually want to talk about another kind of fear, the fear that is irrational, that doesn't make sense. And most of us know that fear by a name called phobia. A phobia is an irrational or unexplainable fear. And everyone has some sort of phobia. And I want to talk about 2 phobias that I have. The first one is claustrophobia, and the second one is ornithophobia. The first one, claustrophobia, is a very common kind of fear. And from what little research I've done, a lot of people around the world experience some sort of ardent fear with enclosed spaces. For example, I hate small rooms, small buildings, small cars. I hate windowless rooms. I'm just happy this room has some sort of a window there in the door so I can see outside and not feel trapped. And sometimes when it's cloudy outside, I feel a little bit trapped because I can't see the sky. And I'm actually grateful that the cities of Dallas and Fort Worth are spread out very nicely, and there's a lot of landscape, and it's open kind of a city. For example, sometimes when, like, I've been to London many times, and for the first couple of days, I feel a bit of anxiety because it's obviously geographically very small, and houses and buildings are very dense and packed together, and even the houses are incredibly tiny as opposed to houses in Dallas and Fort Worth, which are huge. That's one of the reasons why people love Texas. They're like, oh my God, such beautiful big houses. I'm like, yes, thank God. And there, for example, there was also a movie that came out a few years ago called Buried. I never watched it, but I only heard about it. And apparently it's the story of a guy, I believe it's Ryan Reynolds, who is trapped underground, and that's the entire movie. Just him underground. I couldn't even watch the trailer. Just reading the tagline of that was enough to give me tons of anxiety. So I'm like, okay, I'm definitely claustrophobic. The second fear I have is called ornithophobia, which is a fear of birds. I can't even talk about birds. I am that scared of them, right from pigeons to eagles. It's just terrifying. Don't even talk to me about a vulture. That's my greatest nightmare. For me, birds are demons. I just can't do it. And to show you how bad my fear is, I'm going to tell you a small, tiny anecdote. So a couple of years ago, I had gone to a restaurant by myself, and I was going back to the car. And by the driver's seat, there are a cluster of pigeons. So now my anxiety is at an all-time high, my palms are sweaty, and I don't know what to do. I'm too scared to go to the pigeons and scare them off, but at the same time, I want to get into my car and run away. So the genius I am, I go to the passenger side seat, get into the passenger side, somehow put myself through a lot of discomfort and climb onto the driver's seat and quickly shut the door. Now, I know this might seem kind of creepy to you guys, but that was my defense mechanism. I would rather climb through and go through the passenger side seat and sit on the driver's seat and get away from there rather than try and scare off the pigeons. So that's just my deal in life. And I would just like to say that all of us have phobias, whether it's a silly thing or a more reasonable type of fear. And I want to just say it's okay. There are more of us out there. So maybe you guys can go and do a little bit of research of what scares you. And I just want to leave off by saying that good luck to any of you guys in encountering your phobias from now on. Thank you.
Thank you, Saba, very much. Talking about fears, that is interesting. And now I know something about ornithophobia. I guess that makes sense. Bird phobia. That is pretty cool. And possibly timely. Civil rights kind of weaves in there. And we have somebody who stepped up to the mantle to give us a speech. Will Gribble is going to give us a speech. And he has nothing planned this weekend. And to him, that is a holiday in and of itself. So how about we give a hand for Will Gribble to give us a speech. There you go.
I hate to say it this way. Thank you for catching me on my own. Don't count me on the second one for that. Can we possibly do something while I get everything pulled up?
Oh yeah, sure. I had some.
Waste people's time.
Yeah, I have some notes about MLK of things that I can talk about. You're supposed to sort of give a speech as Toastmaster of the day. So I have sort of 3 things written down. Oh, this might be. I mean, it's interesting. I wanted to urge everyone to go look at the MLK speech. You should all go do that. That's part of Toastmasters, right? The last project of Competent Communicator is urging people to go do something. So I urge you all. It's a good speech, you know, and there's something we can learn from it. Being sort of people studying speeches in a way rhetorically and he definitely doesn't have fear of being in public. So, I mean, if he does, he's hiding it very well. Magic is working. We're going to have extended table topics today because we only have 2 speeches. We were going to have one, but William he just said, "All right, I'll pull up a PowerPoint." Once we asked him, it was magical. It was pretty cool, stepping up to the occasion, like Professor Murphy did. I think it was Halloween, and he drew us right here some Lego heads costumes. That was exciting. I think we have some great people in here to learn from. So I'm honored to be in the garden of everyone's skills.
Can I just make one comment when he's setting up? I'm excited in arms, so if anyone has some sort of a speech where they need the PowerPoint and stuff, just let me know in advance so then I can set it up.
Alrighty, that's good. We also have an opening once again for Vice President membership.
Mr. Outgoing President, I understand that you had a speech prepared for your last day of the presidency, but you were unable to attend the fair.
Oh, right.
And we didn't have time to hear it, so why don't you tell us what you were going to say?
Oh, yeah, so I don't know if you all remember, when I ran for presidency, I had like 3 things. Oh, gosh. I hope I remember them. Oh, yeah. One is my leadership style is Ulysses S. Grant, which Professor Kelly actually is an aficionado of, because he has the same birthday as Ulysses S. Grant. So is, just march out there, shoot first, don't ask questions. I don't know. I think that's okay. Maybe, but you know what?
If I may interrupt, it was the march to the sea where you leave everything
Sure,
burning
that's
in your
Sherman's
way.
march.
That was the leadership
Okay.
style.
Okay, so that's what I campaigned on. Yeah. Well, okay. So those were the 3. That was one of the 3 points that and I wasn't here for that campaign speech. It was actually Brian Singletary, our former Vice President of Education. He so I don't know. I hope I somewhat fulfilled at least the march to the sea of keeping the club alive. So it was fun being president, and I appreciate it. I think Frances, she has a lot of energy. I was talking with her today and throughout this week. She's going to be an awesome president. I'm really excited, and she brought donuts today. I mean, that's just incredible. She has marched beyond the sea. I mean, she's already
I
on.
also promoted help yesterday, so I clearly don't stick to what I say.
You can balance it out, I suppose. But that's a little summation of what the speech would have been. And I suppose that is the speech. And I'd say it was about 3 minutes, right, that I've been up here giving talk. We'll talk afterwards, Vice President of Education. All right, William Gribble for the speech today.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, today we're going to talk about part 2. For those of you that haven't heard me before, I like to talk about emergency management, maybe a little bit of military topics. End of last semester, we capped off the semester by talking about WHODAT, Beginner's Guide to Military Ranks Part 1. Today will be Part 2. And today, we're going to focus on the Navy. So as a review, these 2 people are equal in rank in the military. They just happen to be from different services. One's an Army drill sergeant, and one's a Navy SEAL that I would never get in a fight with at a bar. His neck is bigger than my leg. So again, the ranks are broken out by officer, warrant officers, and enlisted. Today we're going to talk about enlisted and officers in the Navy, but not necessarily warrant officers. That'll be for another day, part 3, 4, 5, or 6. So enlisted ranks in the Navy. You start at the very bottom. You have seaman recruit, seaman apprentice, and seaman. In the Navy, what's different than the Army is the idea that you are called by your job. Not necessarily in the Army where you are a private or a sergeant no matter what. In the Navy, you are called a seaman, a fireman, a constructionman, an airman, whether you're a male or female. So you start as a seaman recruit, 1 strike, and many times the Navy doesn't even waste their money on you. They just leave you blank. Seaman apprentice, and then seaman. So E1, 2, and 3. Those are the enlisted grades. You don't necessarily have a leadership job at that point. The whole idea is the military is teaching you how to follow orders and do your job. Then you move up to be a petty officer. You're not a sergeant in the Navy, you're a petty officer. And this comes from a tradition that goes all the way back to the British Empire in the Royal Navy. As you worked on a ship, you worked your way up. So you have a petty officer third class, second class, and first class. Exact opposite of law school. And keep in mind, you're not going to call every single one of these gentlemen or ladies petty officers. You're going to call them by their ranks. And especially for our profession, the paralegals in the Navy are called legalmen. So you will call them a legalman third class, a legalman second class, and a legalman first class. So more stripes, more responsibility. Typically, you will have a leading petty officer that is that E6, that petty officer first class. At that point, they make the big jump to become a chief petty officer. This is where they get to wear the round hat. Up until that point, they've got to wear the little Cracker Jack hat. And they even have the Cracker Jack uniform. I kid you not, they call them Cracker Jacks because of what is on the Cracker Jack box. Then they get to transition to more of an officer-type uniform, and they don't necessarily have to do all the work that the E6 and below do. They typically have the coffee and yell at people. Somebody needs to yell at people. But how you know this is that you have a horizon come up on the ranks. And that denotes that they are a chief petty officer of some grade or another. Moving up, you have that star. That first star is a senior chief petty officer. And a second star makes you a master chief petty officer. This is equivalent to a sergeant major in the Army. Now, all of you nerds out there, and those of you that won't admit it, if you remember the Halo game that came out on Xbox, they have Master Chief running around. That is where they get that from, Master Chief Petty Officer. That is the highest enlisted grade in the Navy. Typically, you will have a Master Chief or a Senior Chief assigned to a commanding officer of a ship or an activity. An activity could be a base that will advise the commander on all things when it comes to enlisted matters. Then we have our officers. Our initial grades are the lieutenants. You're just now learning your job. So you have an ensign, a lieutenant junior grade, and a lieutenant. It's just like being a second lieutenant, first lieutenant, and captain in the Army. Only here, that lieutenant is not a captain. It's funny when you call the Navy and say, I'm Captain so-and-so from the Army, they will typically jump very quickly until they get their wits about them. And then you have the commander and captain rounds. At that point, you are a lieutenant commander, commander, and a captain. This, yes, Jack Sparrow, this is your rank. Then you have your admirals. Commodore is no more. This used to be Commodore. Now it's Rear Admiral, lower, upper, Vice Admiral, and Admiral, Admiral of the Navy. So, what did we learn? We learned just enough that we don't offend the Navy when they come here on February 8th. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, William. Thank you for jumping up and giving a speech. That was pretty exciting. Well, I think we should all aspire to. I really learned a lot, actually, from this speech just now. I thought that was some good pointers. I think I need to make a little speech with, sort of really good structure. Table topics move us to maybe thinking about the theme of the day, talking on our feet. So please give a hand for Jonathan Heathman to come up and lead us in table topics.
All right, so for table topics, I'm going to try to stay within the theme of Martin Luther King. And being that this is Toastmasters, of course, all of us want to, be better public speakers and try to fill the shoes of a Martin Luther King, possibly. But, those are big shoes to fill, and we can just hope to be confident when we get up in front of people and speak. So my first topic is going to be for Randy. Randy, would you mind coming up and telling us if Martin Luther King were alive today, how do you think he'd feel about the current state of our nation and how far we've come in equality? Give it up for Randy.
So if he were to say have first been in his time period and to experience that and then come here, he might feel that it has definitely improved, but ways that it hasn't. There are still people that have those same views that you had back in that time period. So it just kind of depends on where he was, I guess. It could be, and then we have all these things where, hashtag Black Lives Matter kind of also pushes that issue more, where it's not really just an African American issue, it's a all race issue. So he might feel better, but then also not, because we're pushing that one issue, whereas we should focus on everybody's rights instead of just one class of people's rights. So I don't know. It would really just, I guess, depend on where he was.
Good job. Thank you, Brandon. A good lawyer answer with it depends. I'm taking a break from Martin Luther King topic, and I'm just going to ask somebody about what they did over the winter break, and if they did anything fun, or if they just stressed about grades the whole time. So, Hans, would you come up and tell us about your winter break?
My winter break was good. Y'all might have seen some memes out there on Facebook that showed that I was stressing over grades. Still am a little bit, just in the sense that it's kind of frustrating that they're not there. No offense to anyone in the room who might be posting or not posting grades. No, winter break was good. It was a return home. Every year I go back to Maryland. My grandparents live in Baltimore. My father lives in a town called Hagerstown, Maryland. And unfortunately for me, every year I go back to Hagerstown, Maryland, and I get a little bit more depressed, because it reminds me why I don't live there, and why I'm never going to live there again, and why I don't want anybody from my family living there. And it's harsh, but when I left, there were 0 methadone clinics. There are now 3. If that gives you an indication of where this town has gone in the last 20 years, I used to work for one of the local politicians. It's kind of how I got my start, basically going in and begging for a free job. But I sat around when they debated whether or not they were going to bring a branch of the University of Maryland there, and the city council shut it down, and it was probably the worst decision anybody could have made. And it's sad, because you go home, you have a lot of feelings connected to this place. I still have a lot of friends there, but just, being there and realizing that the place I grew up no longer has anything for me it was a little sad this year. It just felt so much different to come back and be like, I've got this life in Fort Worth, I've got law school, I've got friends, I got a lot going for me in Texas, and I guess it's time for me to leave Maryland behind. But every year I'll come back, get some presents under the Christmas tree, But it's nice to see family, and that's really what I did. That was what my Christmas break was about this year.
All right, back to the Martin Luther King theme. I'd like to have someone come up and tell us about a dream they may have for the country, or a dream they may have for the world. So, Francis, would you be my guest? And I'm not telling you how to craft your speech or anything, but if you want to start with I have a dream, that'd be great.
Alright, no pressure on this one. I'll just say world peace. No, gosh. I think the biggest thing I've noticed recently in the news and whatnot, we hear about all the refugees, and you see these families coming in, and you hear 2 sides to it. You hear the people who say, well, we want to stop them and make them go through this process, and it's a lengthy process. It's one I don't even understand, so I can't imagine going through any one of them. And then you see a picture, and you see children, you see a dead child, you see a family, and these are people like you would know here in the States, and you see that, and you think, why don't we want them here? What about that kid? What's wrong with him, or what's wrong with this person? When you bring it down to that individual level, I think that makes it really hard for me to. I understand regulating it, and I think there needs to be some mechanism, but at the same time, an expedited one, so that we can help those people and let those people, have safety. I don't think a 10-year-old child is going to sit in his house
topic is going to go to Zach. Zach, please come up and tell us about your dream for your future, your career, anything like that. All right. Thanks, Zach.
Alright. So as an L1, I kind of don't know what I want to do. I'm still just learning everything. But I always found wills and estates kind of interesting. I always found criminal law interesting. When I was an undergrad, I interned at the DA's office, and I got to see all their paperwork and all their stuff. And I got to sit in the courtrooms for felony trials and a bunch of stuff like that. And I always thought that was very interesting. Now, that's kind of why I joined this, because it's very hard to get in front of a judge in a courtroom and argue for someone basically to go to jail for a long period of time. So I figured I'd join this. But back to what I want to do. Right now, it's just kind of a toss-up, because there's still a long, long, long time before I'm done with this. And that's so exciting. But, yeah, that's about all I have planned for right now. That's it.
All right, thanks, Zach.
Don't worry, buddy. There's a lot of us that are in the same boat that don't really know where we're going with our careers, but something legal related. Anyway, that's the end of table topics. Now I'd like to call on Charles to introduce the general evaluator.
All righty. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Those
Charles.
Thank you. And I'd like to call Randy Soldat. Please come lead us in the evaluation of the entire meeting.
So I'm just going to get right into the evaluators, and I'll come back to the evaluation meeting. First, we have Madison, who is evaluating Saba. She has plans to surprise her mom this weekend for her birthday with tickets to Bass Hall. So that's something for those of you that don't have plans, maybe think about doing something, surprise somebody with something fun to do.
Howdy.
Howdy.
So sorry if I cough in the middle of my speech here, but I am evaluating Saba's speech on fears, and I think overall you had a great speech. I think that you organized it well. It's her third speech, Get to the Point, which is about having a purpose and informing or persuading or entertaining and inspiring, and I think you did all of those things. Maybe not. You persuaded me to crawl across my car the next time I see birds in front of me, because I also have a fear of birds and I never know what to do. So I kind of just hit my car alarm a lot until they scurry away. So now I know a new technique to use, and I appreciate that. I think that you did a great job of informing the group about these fears and what it's like to kind of experience them, because when you were describing how you feel in London, my heart started to kind of race a little bit, and I felt like the room was kind of closing in. So you did a great job of that, and I think just overall your descriptions were wonderful, and I think you did a great job also of keeping the room engaged throughout your speech, which can be sometimes difficult to do, especially the longer speeches than just the introduction. So I like that you included personal stories and facts about you. So it wasn't just informing us about these phobias and fears and good fears and bad fears and all that, but it was also informing us about you. And so I enjoyed that. I think that you could work on, so at the beginning when it was about, I thought the purpose was, the speech was to talk about the difference between good and bad fears and how they can motivate you or change, be good and bad, obviously, because they're good and bad fears. But then when it went to phobias, I think there was a slight disconnect, just that it could have been a little clearer how, phobias play into, or how they can be good and bad. I mean, I know that it's uncomfortable to have, phobias, or when you're dealing with your phobias, but I think sometimes those are good things too. So when we recognize, that you have a fear of, say, public speaking, and you address that. So I think that would have been the only change. But overall, I think it was a great speech, and I really enjoyed it. So, thank you.
Madison, I can really relate to crawling across your car from the passenger seat. Once a spider made its web on my driver's side door over, I think it was like 4 hours, and I was in a knee brace at the time, so it was very interesting. Next, we have Hans evaluating Will's speech. He has no plans to do anything, just relax, which is also a good idea if you had such a great winter break, just decompress. So.
All right. I am evaluating Will's speech, which I'm just going to summarize as ranks of the Navy. But going off of the list, it's kind of hard because some of the questions don't really build for the impromptu nature of the speech. Which, for the impromptu nature of the speech, very good job. It was nice to have something in your back pocket. And it's like, is it directed towards the interests and backgrounds of the audience? Well, initially no, but with the tie-in about how the Navy's coming here, did a very good job to show us of, the purpose of the speech was to inform, and you informed us of the reason that we are now informed, because the Navy's coming here, and so now that we can understand and interact with them better, it has that advantage. The PowerPoint slides and the method of informing us was very good because it was simple. There wasn't a lot on the slide to create any confusion. There wasn't a lot for us to read. So instead of reading the slide, we were listening to you. The ranks were very clearly displayed so that you can see what each one is, and you left the slide up long enough to give us time to understand and kind of drink in that picture, which is a very good method to inform. You were knowledgeable about the subject, obviously. You've worked for the Navy, you've worked for the Army, and that goes without question that you're very knowledgeable of the subject of ranks. And it did appear to be well researched. Now, granted, it was basic knowledge, but for us in the room who aren't in the military, it's not. So your knowledge being passed down to us, your research into what each rank is called, what each rank does, or how each rank is positioned, whether it's a fireman or a legalman, petty officer, the tie-in with Halo for Master Chief was a nice one. But otherwise, the purpose was to inform and use a visual aid to do so. You did that very well. I think the visual aids were very clear and concise. I think your speech was very clear and concise. And you ended it with a purpose of why we should be informed. And that makes it nice because it really brings it home for everybody. So thank you very much and good job.
I just gotta say, Will, your enthusiasm always makes me super interested in everything you talk about, even if it could be possibly the most boring subject on the planet. So next, can we get our grammarian's report from Zach?
Well, everybody's mostly complete sentences, only political topic issues. But I only heard Arden once, I think. So, which I'm not surprised. It's kind of hard to put in there. I just kind of used it because it's part of the subject. But overall, everybody did good.
Thank you. And next, could we get our off-counter report from Professor Kelly?
Sure. I appreciate you all putting up with me. I feel like I didn't do a very good job here. Some of you didn't get clicked near as many times as you should have. I have a problem. I get interested in what you have to say or how you're saying it, and all of a sudden I realize, he said about a sentence or two ago, and now it's too late to click. So I did not click it here as many times, but I did count most of them, I think. So Charles, you've had quite a few of us tonight, but you've had quite a different job today with the change of things we've had. So I didn't count most. James had one, I think, when you were explaining your job, and Zachary's had a couple. So it was really good. Francis had a couple, but like one here and one way later on. Saba had a couple during your speech, and Will caught one during your speech. So all those up, you probably what I come up with on a normal basis. Pretty good, but we still have some work to do.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and call for the timers report now, because I know we sometimes forgotten it. So.
Alrighty, today both the prepared speakers qualified. Solid qualified at 5:43. Will qualified at 5:02. For table topics, most everyone qualified. Randy at 110, Hans at 150, Francis at 136, and Zach at 55 seconds. Almost there, very close. And for the evaluators, both qualified. Madison and Hans, Madison got 238 and Hans at 218. So pretty good day for everybody. Most everyone qualified.
So I know that it was kind of first meeting back. We just got back this first week. Maybe you were prepared to have a meeting this week in Toastmasters, but we started, I think, about 5 minutes late. So just, know that there's a class in here. Be here at like around 11:50 so we can get in here as soon as class is over and be prepared for the meeting. But it was also, I want to applaud the people that stepped up and filled in roles. Without that, we were kind of looking at a lot of extra time to try and fill in. And then Charles, with your little impromptu speech, it definitely helped. So I think that the best thing to do though for making sure those roles are filled is to try and get that done as soon as possible. Send out emails, post it on Facebook, make sure that you can get somebody to fill your role, and it should be the job of the person that can't make the meeting. So if you can't make it, make sure you contact people and get that role filled. I think that overall we did a good job of getting everything in there and being prepared. I turn it over to Francis.
Yeah, I have a couple things. All right, thank you all for being here for the first meeting. I know it was kind of the usual turnout, not to say it's a bad turnout. I did want to mention to you all, I may try to ask, I know Professor Murphy said, if I get permission from the professors of the 1L classes, I can go in there and make an announcement, or Jonathan may. I'd like to extend that to all of you. If you have a friend or know of one 1L, kind of maybe next Friday, it could be bring a 1L or bring a 2L or a 3L, but get someone to come with you and bring someone with you. I think if we can get people in the door and get them involved, that'll help. Let them know they don't have to speak, but if they can feel engaged. I know William gives a great speech. I mean, I feel like you see that and you want to give a speech like that. And I hope I'm my 10th when I'm doing that. So that was great. That's something I'd really appreciate if y'all could even just bring one person. That would double our numbers. And hopefully over the semester we can really grow and build it so that by next year, people who are 1Ls now, I mean, we'll have them as 2Ls and they can kind of start taking those ropes. I know we only have, I think we just have 1L, right? Yeah. So sure.
Zachary.
Feel free to bring your whole writing class or whoever you want to bring with you. That'd be great. I brought donuts today. I didn't know how many people we'd have, so I thought I'd try to bribe people into the meeting with unhealthy food. Would y'all be more interested in having coffee or bagels in the future? I would like to still kind of have something. Bagels,
Coffee sounds
good.
Yeah, bagels
I
and coffee.
self-medicate with coffee in the morning, so I don't know if y'all. I don't want to go that route. I figured everyone says that. But are bagels better? Maybe. Okay. Yeah, bagels are better. Okay. Thank you. And then Professor Kelly, thank you very much for coming up here and leading the song at the beginning. I appreciate that. I hope we can kind of switch that up and do one meeting, one the other, alternate it. Do you have any thoughts on the most appropriate ones at a meeting or what's best? I don't know.
Probably the spirit is more appropriate, but Morgan's always appropriate, except at a funeral maybe.
We can begin with the spirit bag and then end with the morning.
True. That's okay. So
Oh, yeah,
we
that'd
want
be
to play
fun.
with it and make sure we're kind of new, and then in the future.
Can I mention one thing?
Absolutely.
The Texas A&M has, I guess I should say, Texas A&M has a men's chorus called the Singing Cadets. They're no longer all cadets, but a few of them are. But they are giving a concert tonight in Fort Worth at 7 o'clock at the Broadway Baptist Church, the big Baptist church downtown here. And it's free because the church is paying for it. And they will sing several of our university songs, including the War Hymn and the Spirit of Aggie Land and 12th Man and I'll Be a Texas Aggie. So that's 4 songs. And they'll sing some other songs as well, and it's great, full-part men's chorus, very great music, and there won't be any religion involved at all, although it's at a church. So the church is just, one of the cadets, one of the singers grew up in our church, and his family is still there, and so that's why the church is sponsoring it first. So if you come to that, you'll hear what the spirit is really supposed
Well, hear it the right way. No religion, but a bunch of Aggies. So
Well, it depends on how you define religion.
Exactly. So thank you. I would be going. I actually have to work in the library this evening, but I've mentioned it to a few people, so that would be a great opportunity. And I've heard great things. William?
I think either way, we need to definitely keep both the Spirit of Aggieland and the War Hymn. I believe this is the only place that I have heard us do either.
Exactly.
So it would help infuse that Aggie spirit, or at least some of the traditions, into the student body. So having both, if we alternate it, if we do both at the meeting, I think that's almost a extremely important piece of our club.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
We do sing the spirit at graduation, so you need to learn how to do it.
So hopefully you'll get to hear it then, at least. So, and yeah, thank you. I think that was kind of the thought we had. We wanted people to hear it, people to know it. I know I've heard it some growing up. Some people went to A&M for undergrad, know it, but I'm hoping, future years and months that some of us will get to go out to football games or go participate in the yells that you're in Fort Worth, and to know these things would definitely help you feel kind of part of the group and involved. So I think that would be great. Do we have any other thoughts or?
We could start a Toastmasters carpool to football games. Pretty cool.
So Jonathan's going to drive people to games.
All right.
You guys car fix, I guess.
I need a bigger car.
All right. Well, if that is it, the meeting is adjourned. Are we all good? Anyone else? We good? Just flip flop. All right.